Right, get myself sorted. Okay. First things first. Yep, some nice pinotage. I deserve this. What year is it? Oh, God. Good morning and welcome to Lockdown Cooking with Cammy Fradock. Today we're going to be making baked jelly donuts, and this procedure will break down into 3 parts. There is an amount of preparation that needs to be done, so we'll cover that now. This is going down so well. Oh. Right, let's hide this. The empty bottle in the bin. Right, so here we go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out our ingredients, and as I said earlier, there's going to be 3 parts to this. The first part is the initial stage where we're just going to get the batter mixed up and starting to rise with the yeast. So let's have a look at that. So here are our ingredients. We've got all-purpose flour, some caster sugar, yeast, vanilla extract, unsalted butter, raspberry jam for the filling, and some eggs. Now the eggs need to be at room temperature, so you probably need to take them out a couple of hours before you start making this, which I haven't done. Now with the flour gets split into 2 parts. We've got 125 grams for the initial stage 1, and then we've got 187.5 grams for stage 2. So I've already measured that out because that's the messy bit. With the next thing we're going to measure out is 50 grams of the sugar. Exactly 50 grams. So I'm going to place that next to that. Then we're going to get 2.5 tablespoons of 2.25 teaspoons of 2.25 teaspoons of yeast. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this, add it already to the 125 grams of the flour. Now in here, this is only 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm going to give it 4.5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1/2. There we go. So that's the yeast measured. The next thing I'm going to use is the salt, and this is 1/4 teaspoon. So that's going to be 1/2 of this. And again, I'm just going to pour that in with the flour. So that's in with the flour now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get 150 millilitres of warm milk. So, like most of us, your milk is kept in the fridge. We use full skim milk here, 0 fat. I don't know whether that's gonna help, but that's what we use. So 150 millilitres of milk straight from the fridge. And then I'm going to pop that in the microwave for 35 seconds. So let me just get a container for that. I almost put the metal in the microwave then. So I pop that in the microwave for 35 seconds. While that's waiting, what I'm going to do is get out another bowl, and I'm going to separate the eggs. So I need 2 yolks. In fact, I need another bowl. There we go. So I'm not going to ask you to suck these, but you know exactly how to separate yolks from the white. So I'm not really teaching you to suck eggs. Here's one. Now then, you can use these whites to make a delicious meringue. They always say that in the TV programs, and we're not making meringue, so these egg yolks are going straight in the bin. It's a bit of a waste. Oops. Bit of a waste, but there we go. Now then, I've made a right Horlicks of that. Okay, so I've got 2, well, 1 3/4 egg yolks there. And obviously you need to wash your hands whenever you touch eggs. Now we've got some warm milk. Now they say 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and I obviously haven't got a thermometer for the kitchen, but if you've got it, then it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The important thing is not to have the milk too hot. If it's hot, it's going to kill the yeast. So I guess you're better erring on the side of caution and having it slightly cooler rather than slightly hotter. The next thing we're going to do is we need to have some melted butter. Now I've got a pack, there's only 1/3 of a pack there, so I'm going to bung that in the microwave, and I hope the container is microwavable, because I'm being too lazy to use another container to melt it in. So I'll tell you now whether Lurpak containers can be microwaved. So I'm just going to bung that in there for about 20 seconds, because we need melted butter. So whilst we're waiting, I'm going to get out my bowl. There's my mixing bowl. Again, a tip my mother always taught me was to put a tea towel underneath your mixing bowl. Whoops. Right, it's official. Lurpak butter containers are definitely not microwavable. That has blistered. The labels are not. Plastic is okay, but the label on top was burning. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it's not good. So I'm just going to mix that up a little bit. Oh, that's not good at all. Anyway, there we go. So there's our melted butter, and I need 3 tablespoons of that. I've made a mess here of this. So let me wash my hands again, since I've put in butter. So what do we need to do now? we add the cup of flour, 125 grams of flour, quarter of a cup of sugar, the yeast and the salt, which we've got in there already. So we just bung that in there. Now before I put anything else in, any wet ingredients, I'm just going to mix that up. So I'm just going to get my whisk. I'm just going to mix that up like so. The next thing I'm going to do is put in my lukewarm milk. So the milk goes in. Now this should be really loose and runny. The next thing I'm going to put in is my 3 tablespoons of melted butter. So there's my tablespoons. 1, 2, and 3. Followed pretty closely by my egg yolks. Oops. I'm going to make sure I get all the egg yolk out of here because I left a little bit in with the whites. So now I mix this up. Then the last thing that I do is I'm going to put in there half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then I'm going to mix that well. Making sure there's no lumps in there, it smells good. And then all that's left to do now is cover that with cling film and then leave it in a warm place to rest for about 10 minutes. Whoops. Again, another handy hint, on the ends of your tin foil and cling film there are little tabs there that hold the thing in place. I obviously haven't been using them, so this does help quite a bit. So that now is phase 1 complete, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. It's going down too well. Right, so after 10 minutes you take off the cover and you should have small bubbles in there. So now you get the wine and you get the flour, and you put the flour, all of this flour, into the mixture. And then you mix it with the wine, and no, you don't mix it with the wine. You put the flour, that's it, you put the flour in the bowl and then you mix it, I guess. And then you've got to mix this right up now. This is hard work. So you mix it now until the wine is in the bowl, the flour is mixed in the bowl, and it's not sticking to the sides and it's not sticking to the bowl. So keep mixing until it's done. This is hard work. So now, once that is done and you've mixed it all up, a good tip here, once you put the flour in the bowl, it's always good to get your dusting flour out and put it back, put it in that bowl, save faffing about with the flour bag or box. Now we'll use this, some of it in the mixture and some of it for dusting later on. Just means that I'm going to mess around with dirty hands inside the flour bag. So that now is sticky, but I need to mix it until it's not sticking to the sides. So at this point you probably want to get your hands in there. Oops. Right. And again, with some of this flour now, you can put it on your fingers and then we can start kneading. That's too wet. That's far too wet. Right, okay. So I'm going to put a bit more flour in there. And I'm going to knead that up again. Whoops. So I think this is still too wet. Not much, just a little bit. Yeah, I just needed an extra little bit of flour. And then basically you knead it for 5 minutes. So I'm not going to make you watch me kneading this for 5 minutes. So I'm going to switch this off now. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, it will be quite pliable and my bowl now is quite clean. I've also got a confession to make. I've just had a complaint phoned in from the Actors Union, and they said I'm actually a crap actor. So this, I've been pretending to be drunk on and I'm a rubbish actor and a rubbish drunk, is actually Vimto. So I filled this bottle, this Pinotage. This Pinotage is Vimto, and the actual wine from there, and I'm teetotal at the moment, the wine is in there. So I've not actually been drinking, but I'm a ham actor and absolutely rubbish at it. So after you've kneaded this for 5 minutes, you've got two choices. You can either cover it with a tea towel and leave it in a warm place at room temperature for about an hour, well 45 minutes they say, or you can cover it in a tea towel and put it in the oven for about 20 minutes at 100 degrees centigrade. If I put this in the oven, covered with a tea towel, I'm going to end up burning down a whole apartment block. So I'm just going to cover this now with a tea towel, and then I'm going to leave this out for about an hour. It's 8:30 a.m. your time today, 11:30 our time, so I've got plenty of time So I'm just going to leave this now, and then I'll check back on it when it's about double in size. It's at this point that I want you to get to when we start our call later. So if you can get it to this point, plus the hour, so it's doubled in size, that's the point that we want to all meet live on webcam tonight. I hope that's as clear as mud, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. So from Cammy Fradock, I'll catch you guys in a little bit